not what happened. It's your thoughts about what happened. So for example, especially in our 20s, our late teens, it's a time of stress and storm, period, okay? You're going through what you go through so you figure out what you don't want in life. It's basically you're shedding everything. So, for example, how many of you have experienced a breakup in the last 12 months? Okay, quietly.
And that be a breakup from, say, a relationship?
A breakup from a relationship. Okay, those small hands that went up. Right? So if it's a breakup, and for one person it might be joyous, and another person it might be devastating. Right? True? So it's not the breakup, depending on what side you're on, right? It's not the breakup, it's your thoughts about the breakup. And so this is the ABC model. So same thing. When a student comes to you, because you're talking about your own difficulties, but as a student leader during your office hours, they're coming to you with their challenges. When I need something taken care of with my students, I send them to the student council. So that there's a lot of power behind the SRC, a lot of power behind it. So once again, pay attention, listen. So whatever your challenge was, whatever it is, I want you to consider what was your thought about the challenge. So this might be the one thing that you're considering. So the first strategy is, I'm going to ask you right now, what do you see? What's the first thing that you see?
The tree.
Okay, who saw the tree first?
Seen a lady in the middle.
Yes.
I feel like the city, like in the back.
I see the lady.
I saw the face. I saw the face.
So there's either a lady or a face. Same picture, two different ways of looking at it. What do you see right here?
Oh, there's a wolf in the middle. Two eyes.
Yeah, like the.
Oh, I see it.
It looks like a bat.
Would we all agree? Yeah. Some see butterflies, some see whatever it is, but all of you are projecting your experiences. It's called a Rorschach ink blot test onto this image. So the first step with challenges is find out really what's behind the challenge. What's the story behind the story? My husband, who's an accountant, has never taken a psychology course in his life, but now he's convinced he's a psychologist. So when I'm not quite myself, he's always like, Andrea, what's the story behind the story? And even where he works, they go to him like he's a psychologist by osmosis or something. So yes, find out, step one, find out the story behind the story. Number two is break it down. So this is basically, this first C is, instead of seeing a challenge as a threat, because that's what stress is. It's a threat. We don't think we have the capability to handle it. So you want to break it down. So how many of you keep a list of all of the different work that you have to do? Put your hand up if you keep a list. You guys have lists for lists for lists, right? And that gives you a sense of accomplishment. And so that's one way of breaking it down. Another way of doing it is to enhance the skill set. So for example, if I give a test, I'll do something called item analysis. And if every single student gets the same 5 questions wrong, the students didn't do it wrong. I didn't teach a skill set. So another thing is that we can be upset if somebody doesn't finish something or if you're overwhelmed or challenged, but maybe you've never been taught how to do that. We have a lot of assumptions around ourselves and other people, so then reduce the challenge in that way. And this comes from something called flow psychology. I need to live in my maximal zone. I am here, not only for students, but doing something like this really stretches me. It makes me work my mind because I want to live in this area right here. This is where you absolutely lose yourself. When I teach, we're going to go around the room, and I say this to my students, and I say this to you right now. This is my absolute, I'm speaking to the camera, this is my absolute favorite time of the day. And my students are always like, what do you do the rest of the day? No, seriously, when I'm teaching, it's my favorite time of the day because I'm not thinking about anything but the moment that I'm in. So we talk about mindfulness and meditation all the time. The best kind of mindful meditation is when you're actively engaged in something. So that when you're playing with your dogs, when you're really absorbed in a book, when you're having fun at work, when you're dancing to some music, when you're playing a sport, but you have to have your skill has to match your challenge. So that The fact that I have a Ph.D. in psychology allows me really to enjoy teaching, because when I'm teaching, I'm not even thinking about the content. I'm only thinking about the students, and it's almost like I spin the content around whoever's in the room. You know, you'll never see me look at the slides because I've worked a lot behind the scenes to get my skill level up. So the higher your skill is in a level, in an area, you need more challenge, okay? Because when you're bored, you know what happens with worry? Most likely when you're worried, you're sitting still, right? So that get up from your desk, go for a walk around the block, whatever it is, what that does is it starts to move you into here, but anxiety is when it's too hard, but you don't have enough skill. So this is what I often say to students, that I'm worried about the test, I'm worried about the test. Study. That's how I handled my stress. When I was a student, I would study, because what I was doing is I was increasing my skill level. Think about when you first started any of the jobs that you're in.